5 p.m. It was late. Well, not for Brian. The day shift guard of the Mega Pizzaplex. 5 p.m. was also the time when the toddlers were required to be picked up, as the daycare officially closes at 5:30. The result of that was that from 5 till 7 p.m. he had really nothing to do. Usually he would use this time and flirt with the cute receptionist Charlotte, but she wasn't on duty this week, and asking his manager to give him shifts every time she was present, well, that was a little sus. Especially since she was the manager's daughter. His peaceful gaming time was, however, interrupted by a loud thunk around the ball pit. The man sighed, closed his eyes, and then sighed again, reluctantly turning off his Plants vs. Zombies game, before getting on his feet. Hands in his pockets, he walked over to where the noise came from. Somehow I had a feeling that it was you. Brian's eyes narrowed. What the hell are you doing? The man was looking at the daycare attendant, who was lying motionless inside the ball pit. The machine, a humanoid sun-themed robot who would transform into a moon counterpart when the lights of the daycare were shut off for nap time.
The rope snapped!
Shouted the machine. The animatronic had been equipped with a ring on its back, so he could attach a rope to it, allowing him to more or less fly through the air. Brian scratched the back of his head and jumped down into the ball pit next to the machine. Brian didn't have much love for the animatronics. As to him, they were just that, things constructed for others' entertainment. However, he was incredibly loyal to Fazbear Entertainment, having worked for the company since he turned 20. So if there was the possibility one of them was damaged, he would immediately spring into action. Gently he inspected the animatronic.
That tickles!
Brian suppressed the urge to smile. Well, said Brian, upon finishing his quick checkup, the shell is damaged, needs some spare parts, and... Brian looked up, spotting the rope. Rope didn't snap. That ring on your butt just, broke.
I'm not fat!
Brian blinked. I didn't say you were.
But you were thinking it!
Brian bit his lower lip. The bot simply knew him way too well. Come on, get up. Report to Parts and Services. The robot attempted to stand, but seemingly gave up halfway through.
Nope, too painful!
Brian scoffed. You want me to carry you, don't you? The attendant refused to respond. Brian turned around and pulled out his walkie-talkie. Kevin, you still in here? The walkie-talkie crackled, and the voice of the Pizzaplex's on-duty engineer came on. Sup? Attendant needs some repairs. Oh, I don't do that. Brian blinked, annoyed. The fuck do you mean?
Don't curse around the children!
There are no children, shut up, barked Brian at the robot. What I mean is, Sun and Moon have a different endoskeleton. I ain't touching that thing. I'll call a friend. She specializes on this stuff. You know, like the jester. Can he still walk? Brian sighed. He can, but wants me to carry him. Kevin laughed. Well, I hope you're strong enough, 'cause she ain't strong enough to pick him up. I will not carry the fucking robot. But Kevin already switched channels. Angrily, Brian chewed on his thumb. Sun, however, raised his butt a little, wiggling it around.
Oh, I'm in so much pain. Why will no one help me?
Brian's left eye twitched.
Oh, how I wish someone was being paid to help me, a poor little robot, get the proper care I deserve.
With a grumpy expression, Brian bowed down and threw the animatronic on his shoulder, who immediately began wiggling around excitedly. Now that Brian got a better look, the machine really was in a bad shape. Borderline nightmarish. His face was cracked. 2 of his sun spikes had broken off. But worst of all was the terribly broken chest piece. That piece must have felt the brunt of the collision. Once the two reached parts and services, Brian put the daycare attendant on the operating table inside the protective dome. His heart was racing from the exhaustion of carrying the heavy piece of machinery. All he wanted to do now was just take a nap. But just when the day shift guard was about to leave, Sun spoke up.
Brian!
What? Growled the human in annoyance.
Please stay. It's scary here. Scary, I tell you.
The animatronic looked over in the direction of where old animatronics were scrapped for parts. One of the endoskeletons there still seemed lively, and while it just stood there, Brian could tell that it must be menacing enough for the attendant to throw a fit over. Brian sighed, and with a heavy heart walked over to a nearby desk and jumped on top of it, before pulling out his phone and continuing his game of Plants vs. Zombies. Meanwhile, you just entered the parking lot of the Mega Pizzaplex. You were a mechanic for Afton Robotics, in charge of repairs. Every day you drive from location to location, doing maintenance and repairs if needed in any Fazbear Entertainment franchise in your area. You specialized on unique animatronics, meaning machines like security puppets, candy cadets, and of course the sun and moon animatronic of the Mega Pizzaplex. As soon as you got the call from Kevin, however, your heart jumped. There was just something about the Mega Pizzaplex that attracted you to it. It was the smell, the sounds, the incredible heat inside the arcade despite the powerful air conditioning, but most importantly, it had been the place where you first repaired one of the lovable mascots. You entered through the employee entrance. After all, you had a level 8 security clearance in most Fazbear locations, just so you could do your job with as little hindrance as possible. Not to mention your severe anxiety made it impossible to interact with customers. Slowly you wandered through the bowels of the gigantic building, walking past several janitorial bots, and Kevin, who by now was in his regular clothes. He pointed you in the direction of parts and services and then left to go home. Lucky, you thought. Finally, after 5 minutes of walking up and down a few stairs, you arrived through the back door in parts and services.
Do you think my friend will come soon?
Those were the first words you heard as you entered. Immediately felt more happy hearing him. A man sitting on a desk with a very bored expression looked up at you. Finally. Where are we going then? The man was skinny. Pale white skin. Long unkempt black hair. It was too dark to make out his eye color, but he looked like a milky surfer dude. You're the repair fairy? You furrowed your brows. What? He shrugged. That's what he calls you.
Is she here? Is she here?
Shouted the attendant. You blushed, not having expected to talk with anyone. Yeah, I'm here to repair him. The man snickered and held his hand out. Brian.
Huh?
He blinked. My name. With a shaky hand, you took his hand in yours and shook. His skin was warm, and his grip a little too tight for comfort. After letting go, Brian explained the damages he could observe. The man kept it short and professional, just how you liked it. While you took notes on your maintenance tablet. Then he shrugged. Anyways, my shift is pretty much over, and I still gotta clean my desk, so if you need help, just call. Even though I don't understand anything of this. He shrugged out of sheer desperation for you to not call him, as he really wanted to get going. Before he left, he tipped his head. Be seeing you, Miss Fairy. And then he began marching towards the exit. As soon as Brian left, your shy smile was replaced with a more natural one. You stepped towards the protective dome.
Oh, it's you! It's you! It's you! Ah! I miss you so much,
shouted Sun. You and the robot went way back. After all, he was the machine you first worked on after finishing your internship at Afton Robotics. Quickly you entered the dome as your smile faltered ever so slightly. Oh gosh, what have they done to you? Gently you let your fingers glide across his cracks.
Who?
Asked the robot. The kids? I assume they did it.
No. The children would never do that.
He blinked.
I fell off my rope.
You chuckled to make light of the situation. Oh jeez, didn't they program you to check it at least twice before taking off?
I forgot.
You blinked in confusion. How can a machine forget? Sun shrugged. Well, let me start a quick check then. You inserted a connection cable into the back of Sun's head, and then looked through his memory on your tablet. There was something off. An empty file with no name. That shouldn't be here.
Oh no, am I going to die? Please, I don't want to die!
You chuckled. You're not. But there shouldn't be empty folders just appearing. Did something strange happen these past months?
There was this brat! Brat, I tell you! I banned him from the daycare!
Interesting. Could he have hacked you? The robot shrugged.
He was breaking rules, but didn't touch me once.
I see. Before opening the creepy file, you decided to run a virus scan. As the bar slowly moved forward, you left the protective dome and opened the maintenance panel of the Mega Pizzaplex.
What are you doing, special friend fairy?
Asked Sun. Just ordering your new shell. You definitely need a new one. Sun sighed and with both hands hit his damaged chest.
But I like my skin.
You chuckled amused. Don't worry, Sunny. You spoke softly. It will be the same one. You won't feel a difference. It needed to be the same one, of course. Why did he think he would get anything but the same shell? Well, he was kind of cute, though. Your tablet played a jingle, indicating the scan was completed. Quickly, you re-entered the dome. The tablet told you that no viruses were found, but some temporary files had been deleted. And just like that, the creepy folder was gone. Guess that would be a mystery you would never figure out.
Oh my, oh my, oh my,
shouted Sun suddenly, scaring you a bit. What? You stuttered.
I forgot so much! It's all coming back now!
You sighed in relief. Crisis averted. maybe it was a virus after all. Next, you walked back out of the dome. Using the maintenance panel, you began removing every shell piece off Sun. The robot insisted on staying awake during the procedure, but after screaming in pain when the dome's arms were detaching his broken chest piece, you shut him off entirely. Sure, he was a machine, but you really didn't have the heart to hurt him. Would he be mad when you turned him back on? Soon, a small group of service bots entered parts and services, placing 4 heavy-looking boxes on the ground before leaving. Each box contained an assortment of Sun and Moon parts. You placed the new shell pieces onto the dome's repair arms for reattachment and let the automatic program run its course. Up until his head. For that, the animatronic needed to be awake so you could make sure he was able to see.
Why did you turn me off?
He asked once power was restored. You blushed out of embarrassment. Your screams, they were not really what I wanted to hear tonight. He raised his head to look at you, even though his eyes weren't inserted yet. You gulped, feeling like he was judging you harshly. But then,
"That is so thoughtful of you!"
he shouted.
"But I still can't see."
You chuckled. Well, Sonny, that's because I haven't reattached your face yet. Just 1 minute, okay? The robotic arm put the faceplate onto Sun's head before you entered the protective dome one last time for the procedure. You stepped behind Sun. Okay, this may be uncomfortable. You began taking the different colored wires of his facial plates and insert them into his endoskeleton. He giggled as soon as you touched the first one.
That tickles!
He exclaimed. Thankfully, he didn't move.
Oh, I can see!
He shouted and immediately jumped up on his feet, dancing around like a child on too much fizzy fazz. Watch out! I still haven't attached your...
Ah!
The animatronic lost its balance and fell on top of you. Gyroscope! You coughed in pain. The robot was hanging in your arms like a drunk boyfriend. With a heavy groan and some help from him, you helped him back onto the table. You heaved. In your time as a mechanic for Afton Robotics and Fazbear Entertainment, you had carried a few animatronic bits and pieces, but an entire machine, that was still way too heavy for you. Once your body calmed down, you went back behind him and connected the final 2 wires. There. Now it should work. For a moment, you just stood there, mostly dumbfounded at the machine's silence. Sonny?
I'm sorry.
You blinked. Huh?
I'm sorry!
You smiled. It's okay. The attendant blinked and then slowly stood up.
I didn't realize I was still unable to.
You gently patted his shoulder. But you can now. The gyroscope should be working now. After he still didn't move, you sat down next to him. That's wrong. It's more than just, the gyroscope, is it?
I am programmed to not want you here.
You blinked. What?
I am programmed to make choices that keep you from coming over.
He looked at you.
But I want you to come. I want you!
You smiled, but you were obligated to ask. So did you tamper with the rope? He raised a hand in defense.
No, I would never. I could fall on a child. I could never hurt even a single child. Not even rule breakers.
So what's the issue here? His face spun upside down.
You're a fairy, and I like fairies.
Finally you understood. Oh, I get it now. You like having me around. But me being here means something bad has happened to one of your friends. Or you yourself.
You touch me with such delicate hands!
You blinked. Yeah. You blushed. Then he nudged you with his shoulder. A little too hard, but you managed to not wince from the pain.
Do you still remember that you kissed me?
You blinked in shock. What?
When you were here the last time, you were ordered to kiss me by Kevin.
You chuckled dismissively. That wasn't an order, I just lost a bet.
Oh.
Oh? You thought? Oh, what? But then you understood. Sighing, you said, "Do you want me to kiss you, Sonny?" He nodded energetically. You quickly leaned forward and pecked his forehead. The robot shivered in excitement as he felt your lips brush against his shell. It was warm, thanks to the heat inside the dome, so it wasn't too bad. After a quiet moment, you separated from his head, as it spun happily. Smiling, you gently patted his head between two spikes after you stopped moving. Well, I gotta go, but before that, do you want to do something together? You checked your watch, and then held it up to his face so he could read it. My shift is over after all, so technically I'm a customer now.
Let's do finger paints!
Sonny jumped off the surgery table, then looked around.
Where are the finger paints?
This is parts and services. There are no finger paints. Dejected, the animatronic lowered his head. Can you dance? You asked of her, feeling a sudden jolt of confidence.
I'm programmed with over 50 child-friendly dances.
You sighed as quiet as you could, and pulled out your private phone, blushing in pure embarrassment. Well then, let's have a dance before I leave. And then you turned on some music.